We all know what happened in 2005. Via a leveraged buyout, the Glazer family slammed £660 million worth of debt onto Manchester United to become the club's owners. It was one of the first in English football history. Soon later, others followed. Randy Lerner was quickly over with the purchase of Aston Villa in 2006. Tom Hicks and George Gillet's purchase of Liverpool in 2007. The Stan Kroenke's investment into Arsenal, which became a majority holding in 2011. Crystal Palace and Burnley are also now owned majority by Americans, while Leeds, West Ham and Manchester City ownership group have investors from the US with a minority stake. Something to take note with in regards to American owners in English football is this. You rarely, if ever, hear the positives. Of course, Manchester United fans would argue with some of the worst owners ever to grace anything. But Liverpool, Arsenal and potentially soon Chelsea have all had their own problems or are about to experience their own problems with their American owners. And it's baffling to me because some of the most passionate, not only sports fans, but football fans, knowledgeable, intelligent, educated, people who love English football for its traditions, love European football for its traditions, come from America. So what's different about the average American football fan and the people that are investing into English football as owners? Let's start with why American owners are interested in English football in the first place. In 1999, Forbes magazine published their list of the world's most valuable sports teams. At number one was Manchester United. According to Soccernomics author Simon Szymanski, the trigger behind the Glazer takeover was the fact that in the late 90s, Manchester United had become the most valuable sports franchise in the world. In their mind's eye, I think they see themselves doing what they do for the sports in America on a global stage because of the global reach of football and thus being incredibly more profitable for them. But is that what they see themselves doing? Making money? In the 90s and the early 2000s, United were possibly one of the only football clubs in the world that were making a profit consistently. And the Glazers wanted a bit of that. These days, the Premier League TV money is growing at unprecedented, potentially unsustainable rates. When you combine that with the fact that football is one of the most watched sports worldwide and the Premier League is the flagship competition for people who watch football worldwide, it looks like buying a Premier League club from the outside is a sensible business investment. But it's not. American owners, the Glazers, FSG, Todd Boehly, Stan Kroenke, have all complete or part ownership in American sports teams. But the NFL and the Premier League could not be more different in how they are operated and certainly how profitable those businesses can be. The fundamental difference which allows American sports teams to consistently make money in comparison to English football teams. NFL makes cash because it is a closed shop. You do not have the devastation of relegation as an option. Teams know they're going to be in the league every single season. So that means that sometimes the teams at the very bottom don't get culled. They're allowed to exist. And because of the ironically communist nature of American sports, a lower finish actually means you get a better pick of the next best young talent coming through the draft system. It means you can consistently concentrate on growing your brand and connecting with the community to ensure you've got fan base. They also have one major team per state at most, usually. Which means that anybody who wants to watch live American football, NFL, is watching that one club in that state. That's it. College football is a similar sort of size. Mind-blowingly. Premier League teams have to worry about staying up, have to get in European football and having win things. There is a salary cap in place in the NFL, something everybody abides by, and there are measures in place for those who go over it, which actually enriches the rest of the team if you do go over that. The NFL wage caps on each franchise mean that wage structures don't get out of hand. United currently have got some outrageous wages, but in our recent history have had some frankly unexplainable wages. Cristiano Ronaldo, 515 grand a week. David De Gea, 375 grand a week. Sancho, 350 a week. And that's only the top ones. There's also no transfer fees. You get trades, you get draft swaps and picks and this, that, and the other. And the draft system means that the best young talent is always going to be coming in to refresh your team. You might go, I need a tight end. Let's get one through the draft. That's not an option for Premier League teams. You have to dip into the market or your own academy, which might not be suitable. Players get swapped and traded as opposed to sold and bought. And I think one of the fundamental things that's worth talking about is American football teams, NFL teams, they actually make a profit. At one point, probably around about the time of the Glazer buyout, there was only 2 teams in the entire 92 professional clubs in England that made a profit. One of those was Manchester United, and the other one of those was Arsenal at the time they were paying off their new stadium. 2 out of 92 were the ones that was making a profit. Every single other club spends far too much of their income on wages, far too much of their income on transfers. Another reason why Leicester City, and this isn't to bag on all foreign owners at all. Actually, I think what Leicester City's owners have done has been sensational, and they've had to turn the tap off when it comes to investment this season because their wage bill is at somewhere around 100% of their turnover, which leaves nothing else in the can for investment into facilities or into transfers and players. So they've had to restrict their spending on transfers to be able to get their wage bill under control. But what they've done recently with the investment in the King Power Stadium and their new training ground facility is admirable. If I had to look at any ownership, I'm thinking Spurs ownership, Leicester ownership. These are probably the ones that make the most sense outside of your sugar daddy types, Roman Abramovich and Sheikh Mansour, where they've just poured money into the projects at Manchester City and at Chelsea over the last whatever years. No teams make a profit in the Premier League because everyone is fighting for the transfers, for the wages, for all of the other stuff. But teams in the NFL make a profit. Most teams in the NFL make a profit. The lower end of the profits, you're still looking at 50, 60 million pound profit per season. The upper end of it, when you get to the likes of the Dallas Cowboys, making 467 million pounds a year in profit. And I think the American business owners are going, my American football team makes X. We only really sell to anyone in America. Manchester United, Arsenal, these are global names watched by infinitely more people. There's more people watch the Manchester Derby than the Super Bowl. So it's easy to see why you would think, from a pure business perspective, if I can make this much money with the Dallas Cowboys, who don't even win anything, what could I be making if I was owning one of those teams, not just playing on the English stage, but the European stage, being watched by the world? So it makes a lot of sense on that front why you would think you can make money. But football clubs don't make money. I think agents, wages, transfers are taking a big slice of that. Now, there was an attempt to Americanize European football last year, and it was universally hated. It wasn't purely an American idea, but it seemed like every American owner was supporting this. And I think the final nail in the coffin for a lot of English football fans was the European Super League. To try and make English football a lot more Americanized, to ring fence membership of certain competitions, to ensure participation in certain competitions without qualification, a closed shop alternative to the Champions League. The European Super League would have meant clubs were involved without having to worry about whether or not they finished in a qualification place. They'd get it every single year no matter what. This would mean they could make more long-term economic plans and therefore Americanize the game. That went against the heritage and the beauty of the English football pyramid, and we all know what the aftermath of that looked like. Football in England is risky, and I think for a bit of balance, there's been some American owners that have come and bought into the culture. Ryan Reynolds is having a great job at the moment at Wrexham. He's bought into the local area. He has bought into the culture of that football club, and the relationship between those two is flourishing at the moment. Randy Lerner, when he came in, invested into the team at Aston Villa, did some sensational restoration work, some real heritage stuff that was honouring the traditions of Aston Villa, didn't try to Americanize it, and it only kind of went sour for Randy Lerner when he realised he wasn't going to be making the sort of money that you might have been able to make in American sports, and he tried to run it economically and tried to make it pay for itself, which Aston Villa wasn't going to do. They actually gave Martin O'Neill quite a lot of money to spend early doors. They just ran out of money, ultimately, and then he had to sell the club on. Sunderland's takeover at the hands of Early Shaw is one of the best examples I could think of Premier League investment ending in ruin. They went from being in the Premier League to League One. And it's estimated to have cost Ellis somewhere in the region of 200 million due to the back-to-back relegations. English football is not a good investment. As Sheikh Mansour's shown, you can come and you can be successful. And I'm sure we will see it with Newcastle and the Saudi owners. You can come and you can spend a lot of money. There is zero guarantees of any success for that. And there's zero guarantees of any profit for that either. And then obviously we have our own experiences with the Glazers. I see a lot of what the Glazers said and what their spokespeople have said through Woodward and that in what Todd Boehly's saying. And again, this isn't purely just an anti-American thing. There's been a couple of good American owners, but none of them could you call a success yet. And it's not a purely American thing that wanted the Super League. Barcelona wanted it. Perez wanted it at Real Madrid. Juventus wanted it. Were those clubs joining because they had no choice? When you look at the teams that were leading this European Super League thing, Kroenke and the Glazers were at the very forefront of this, seemingly. I don't have a solution here. It was more of a exploration and discussion around American ownership in English football. I actually believe that there's an inevitability about the European Super League or a European Super League type format which doesn't rely on qualification. The Champions League has already started with historical performance having a bigger say, with more fixtures. We might be in for some changes in the near future. TV money has got to the point where 5 levels ago it felt like it was unsustainable, but it continues to grow. TV monies are going to want more and more and more for their money every single year. They're going to want more access, more games, more fixture rearrangements. And I think they want more of the big clubs versus the big clubs. There's zero appetite for Europa League, zero appetite for Europa Conference. But if you can start putting on more regular Champions League games, I think they'd be into that. It's not necessarily in the spirit of the sport, but it is a direction that I can see us going. Let me know in the comments. Am I right? Is there an attempt by American owners to use the Premier League to make profit, and do they all kind of fall foul on the same things when they realise that it's just not achievable in European football? No one makes profit. Or do you think that there's probably going to be some way of making it work, and will that involve a European Super League type affair? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next one. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.